Hello and welcome to another X-Ray Tech video. Today we're going to be talking about Zapier Experts. See, at X-Ray we get the question quite often about if Zapier is so easy, why do I need to hire an expert? If you're wondering where the line is between a Zapier expert and maybe a novice using Zapier, this video is going to talk about exactly that. When do you need an expert and why might you need an expert? So let's get into it. When you're getting started with Zapier, I'm sure you've noticed that it's really easy to start building some workflows. If you're a moderately technical person, you can easily connect your favorite software tools and start to build triggers connected to actions that can be really useful for you. You can build a whole bunch of automations that can help you. And that has its own value and is incredibly helpful, right? When you acquire that skill to be able to build automations for yourself. But the difference here is as you start to accumulate these automations and you're building automations for yourself, and then someone else on your team wants to benefit from those automations too. And then maybe there's 2 or 3 people that also want to be able to rely on this automation. That could be anything from the sales team to the marketing team to the operations team to project management. There's so many different automations that you could build that can be really useful to you or your team. But from a management perspective, from a documentation perspective, it's a very different animal working with automations that you built versus working with automations that somebody else built. So that line that I was talking about between hiring an expert and just doing it yourself is the line between building automations for you and building automations for the organization. Those are very, very different things because your job isn't to manage the automation. Your job is to do whatever you're doing inside the organization already, right? Maybe you're a project manager, a marketer, an operations person, a salesperson, right? And you've been building automations for you that just kind of help you do your work. But once you start adding it to the team and building workflows that now the team is reliant on in order to do their jobs better, now all of a sudden the pyramid of responsibility comes all the way up to you, and your primary job is project management, is ad dollars, is whatever else that your job actually is. So that's the line really between you being able to build and use automations yourself and then the automation infrastructure that is required to support an organization. So let's actually talk about Zapier Experts. Now, of course, X-Ray Tech is a Zapier expert, but there's also a long list of incredible automators that are certified as Zapier experts. You have Andy Wingrave, you have Luhu, you have a whole bunch of international and local organizations that are building automations on Zapier. So what is the thing that they actually do, right? Like, what is so much better than just a novice building an automation? And it ultimately comes down to 3 different parts. One is the database and managing data in and data out and curating and cleaning that data in a way that is most useful for your automations. Now, an expert has seen simply more databases, simply more automations than you. Right? So they have that experience of knowing how things are set up, how different applications work, and frankly, how some of the quirks of these automation platforms operate, right? Sometimes Zapier is a little finicky, and an expert has probably seen that before. Now, the second part is documentation. So documentation isn't something that all experts do. It's something that we take very, very seriously here at X-Ray. But the documentation is really for the people who are using the automation that was built, right? So if you or your team are trying to take advantage of the automations that have been built, you need to know how to trigger them. You need to know how to best utilize them. And you need to know what is happening in there so that you don't create an additional Slack channel or create an additional folder or whatever else is getting automated. So documentation is really key for just teaching and sharing the right way or the intended way to use the different automations. And the third piece is maintenance and really debugging. You see, automation is this weird industry that sits on top of all of the other apps, software, and websites that have already been created. So all of the people that are building these different software and different websites and different things are constantly updating them without Zapier's approval necessarily. It's just people working on software. It's how the software industry works. But when an API changes or someone updates their platform, it might create conflicts inside of Zapier that Zapier doesn't even necessarily know about, but the people working with the tools would be intimately familiar with, right? All of a sudden you're getting a whole bunch of failures when an automation runs. Maybe something changed in the API or the way Zapier handles variables or whatever. And that maintenance component is really, really crucial. And the time to debug is just so wide ranging, right? You can be wrestling with a problem for weeks, or you could just fix it in a few minutes. So an expert is going to be able to really quickly identify what changed or what the issue is, and then be able to use their vast amount of experience to be able to fix that issue as quickly as possible. On that troubleshooting note, you might want to contact a Zapier expert if you're just having trouble with your automation. There are plenty of automators out there that will help you pro bono. X-Ray Tech is one of them. We give a half hour free to anyone that reaches out. And really, it's to save you time. This might be one of your first automations or one of only a handful that you've started to create. And whether or not it's for an organization or just for yourself, really, the experts in the Zapier community is such a supportive ecosystem to be able to figure out what's wrong so you can understand, so you can fix it yourself next time. Well, I hope this video has been helpful. Of course, actually try this out yourself, right? Go to Zapier, create an account. I think you'd be surprised with what you can do right out of the box with the tools you already have. And if you are actually building automations for your team or for your company, don't be afraid to reach out to an expert. They're always willing to help. Please like, subscribe, and comment if there's anything else you'd like us to cover here on the show. As always, links and resources are in the description down below. And don't forget, keep the flow.